Hello ladies and gentlemen, once again this is Jeremy Smith, Photog Day the Great, coming back with you once again today. We're going to be doing a quick preview on the Sony A99. I am finally excited to have this in my hands. I've been very impressed with the Sonys here lately. Sony is kind of going a different path than Nikon and Canon, and that's got its good advantages and it's got its bad advantages. But I'm definitely impressed by any company that gets outside the box and does something different. After all, that's how innovation is made in anything. So that's a great thing that they've decided to go that route. This is a translucent mirrorless camera. Translucent mirror camera. Uses Sony's translucent mirror technology, just like the A65 and A77. We will be taking a closer look at the body, and you guys will kind of see how it's laid out. It is very much like the Sony A77. The body is about the same size. It uses the same M type rechargeable battery. So there's lots and lots of similarities between both the cameras, and has a very nice solid feel to it. Magnesium alloy body. Of course, the big thing about this camera is it is full frame. So it's using a 24 megapixel full frame sensor. This sensor has an ISO range from ISO 100 all the way up to like ISO 12,000. ISO 100 to ISO 25,600. So definitely going to be good in low light. Recently, they did a teardown online of the Nikon D600 and found out that the D600 is a 24 megapixel Sony sensor. I would be very surprised if the sensor in this camera isn't the same 24 megapixel sensor as the one in the D600. And of course that's a very good thing. The D600 sensor is absolutely phenomenal. So anyways, very good there. This camera does, it's listed as doing up to 5 frames per second at its maximum resolution. With this being a Sony, they kind of like to add a lot of different modes. In the past, we've talked about the so-called T mode in the continuous drive on some of the other Sony models, where the camera basically it's kind of a smart teleconverter option. So basically it ends up using just the center portion of the sensor, and it shoots at a lower resolution to attain greater speed, and then it gets you a little bit more range. The A99 has a couple different modes where you can do it as well and attain higher frame rates. I am going to spend more time with that and kind of see how it works. In studying this, honestly, me and some of my colleagues, we got a little bit confused as to how it works in all the different settings, because it does something. It shoots one speed with the AF on, and then with the AF off. So this is the preview, so we're not going to get into that just yet. But as I spend more time with this, I'm going to go into more detail about it. So that's very good. One of the biggest things that we were all shocked by on this camera over the previous Sony models is the fact that Sony has decided to ditch the traditional Minolta hot shoe. So yeah, I was actually really shocked by that. But I'm glad to see it, because if you're shooting a Sony and you want to put your pocket wizard on the camera, you have to fiddle with an adapter, and to get it to the standard type hot shoe. So I'm glad that Sony decided to ditch that proprietary hot shoe on this one. They did do something unique though, which we'll look at this when we look at the camera closer. But they actually decided to incorporate a camcorder style interface within the hot shoe itself. So Sony, they make some proprietary like breakout boxes and things on that sort. I know that they have like a little box that will slide on the hot shoe, and it will plug into that proprietary interface there, and it will actually give you the ability to plug in like XLR microphones and that sort of thing, and then have dials for manual audio levels. So that's really cool. That was something that I was not expecting to see. For memory, this camera uses SD cards. So it is a dual SD interface, which is okay. I'm not the world's biggest fan of SD cards, but because it uses two, that makes up for it. Also, on the Sonys, one thing that I've always liked about them is the fact that they love to put the GPS and the Wi-Fi and that sort of thing built into their cameras. This one doesn't have Wi-Fi, but it does have GPS built in, so that's a really good thing. I don't like how I'm always giving Nikon grief about this. Even being a Nikon user myself, I hate how you always have to buy additional modules to plug into your camera. You know, I mean, you've got your big 2.8 zoom on your camera, and you've got your big SB910 flash, but oh wait, you need another little tiny module to be able to have Wi-Fi or GPS and that sort of thing. So I really hope that Nikon, I mean, Canon is starting to follow suit with built-in GPS and that sort of thing. Hopefully Nikon will get the message soon, but Sony, they've always been ahead of the curve on that, so this does have the GPS built right into the camera, so that's very nice. By the way, you guys will have to forgive me. I'm using a crop sensor lens on this. I don't know, here lately I've had a very difficult time getting my hands on any decent Sony glass, but I just wanted to put something on this so I didn't have just a bare camera body. So yeah, this is a crop sensor lens. But whenever I test it, of course, in more detail, of course, I'll be using a appropriate lens. I'll probably be using something like the 24 to 70 Zeiss or the 135mm 1.8 Zeiss. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a closer look at this camera in detail. Okay, taking a closer look at the body here. It's very close to the Sony A77. It has a very nice feel. I do like the feel of this camera quite a lot. I like how, of course, this is something we've come to expect on the Sonys, but I like how this one has a swiveling LCD as well. Like the one on the A77, it will come down and rotate like this. But of course, if you're on a tripod, that doesn't work, so that's why Sony added the little hinge mechanism to it as well. So it will actually go all the way up there, and you can also swivel it there as well. So that's pretty cool. Nikon and Canon both seem to be a bit shy about swiveling LCDs, and they do not include them on their higher models for whatever reason. But it is nice to see that on this camera. It is also, of course, as I mentioned before, it is also dual SD slots. On the top slot, you can also use the Sony memory stick cards. So if you have memory sticks lying around, you can use those as well. In the past, a lot of people kind of complained about how you had to use memory sticks on Sony cameras. So I'm very glad that on all the newer cameras now, you can use SD or memory stick. As you guys may or may not know, I'm not the world's greatest fan of SD cards, but if I had to pick a single compact flash versus two SDs, I would still pick the two SDs. So that's a nice addition. One of the things on this camera that I actually didn't realize until I took it out of the box, I guess I must have missed it in the press release somewhere, is that it does not have a built-in flash. So that's interesting to note. On a camera this level, not really that big of a deal. The main use for a built-in flash on a camera in this level, in my mind, is to trigger external speed lights. Sorry, Jeremy, you're not talking about Nikon. External flashes. So, you know, that's a good use for it, I suppose. But you don't have one here. Not really that big of a deal. I'm kind of indifferent about it. But it is worth mentioning. The biggest news up here is the hot shoe. And as I mentioned to you before, Sony has now departed from the traditional Minolta style shoe until it's a standard type hot shoe. They did one little thing to augment it a little bit, and they actually, let's see here, let me get this where you guys can see. They actually added these little electrical contacts in here. So that will basically be compatible with Sony accessories. Like they have a little breakout box that plugs in up here that gives you XLR inputs and that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. You know, definitely an addition in the DSLR video segment. So that's always nice to see. Over on the other side here we have all of our connections, and we have the sync port and the remote jack there, and then of course the power connector right there. So that's pretty cool. Yes. Nikon in their last generation of cameras they've ditched that DC power in favor of more, video centric jacks. But it's nice to see that Sony still leaves that there and still includes everything else. You have your microphone connection there, and then your headphone jack there as well, which that's something that's become kind of standard fare on all of the DSLRs these days also, is that headphone jack. Whenever I first saw this little thing right here, I thought it was something, but it's actually just a little, it's actually a screw hole, so that's actually nothing, guys. That one in the middle. And then you have your HDMI and your USB. And on this one, you actually have uncompressed video out, just like on the newer Nikons. So that's really, really cool. And of course, that's just a little indicator there. Like on all the Sonys in the past, in this range, you have your GPS built in, so that's also a nice thing, so you don't have to fiddle with the extra modules and whatnot. I do like what they've done to the control layout. Let's see here, let me go ahead and, of course, you've got your function button there, so you can select between all your options there. I did notice already, like the previous Sony models, let's see, let me go ahead and show you guys something here. Get over to the video setting. Like the previous Sony models, if you actually want to do manual exposure in video mode, you do have to ditch the autofocus. So like right now, I'm in autofocus, and notice how I can't go up to actually change the exposure mode in video. But as soon as I switch over to manual, I can go up here and I can actually select a different mode. I can go to aperture priority or program or shutter or full manual. So that's basically how you do that. So it's not any different than any of the other Sonys in that regard. So pretty cool there. I will be doing a lot more testing with this, as you guys know, and I will report back my findings. But until then, this is Jeremy Smith, Photog J the Great, signing off.